Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Icarus Versus. This time, we're up against Vermintide, or to give it its full title, Warhammer The End Times Vermintide. So what the hell is it about? Well, it's a first-person, 4-player co-op survival game where you must face off against the seemingly unending Skaven Ratman hordes that are currently plaguing the impressively named city of Uberschreik. Players have the choice between 5 unique heroes, ranging from a bright wizard, which is essentially a pyromancer, a witch hunter, an elf, a dwarf, or an imperial soldier, each of which come equipped with their own particular style of weaponry. Once you've decided on a mission and assembled a team, you'll soon be wandering the impressively atmospheric streets, forests, and tombs of Uberschreik, keeping your eyes peeled for roving groups of armored storm vermin, or listening out for the ominous horn that signals the approach of a Skaven swarm. Mixed in amongst these more standard encounters are the special Skaven, mini-boss style enemies that can randomly appear at varying points during missions, such as the Ogre, a giant roid rage lump of a Ratman, the Gutter Runner, a clawed ninja assassin that strikes from the shadows, the Packmaster, a particularly irritating Skaven that can drag you away from your group with a noose literally around your neck, and the Globadier, I think I'm getting that name right, a poison-chucking, mask-wearing pain in the ass that occasionally decides to blow itself up, usually in your general vicinity. It's probably at this point that you might be registering just a teeny bit of deja vu, because to be perfectly honest, this is extremely similar to another 4-player co-op survival-based title that you may have heard of. I'm speaking, of course, of Left 4 Dead and its sequel. Titles that Vermintide obviously takes some heavy inspiration from, especially the special Skaven that you could easily swap out for tanks, boomers, hunters, and smokers. So considering the similarities, what does Vermintide do to separate itself from Left 4 Dead? First, I suppose, would be the location. Uberschreik itself is a wonderfully gothic city, drowning in the gloom of an ominous full moon. Missions within Uberschreik will take you from the markets at the heart of the city, to the sewers beneath, from farms and cemeteries on the outskirts, to a wizard's tower that twists reality within, and depending on which hero you play as, you'll experience magical hallucinations unique to that character, which is honestly pretty damn cool. The locations themselves are distinctive and nicely realized, while being constructed in such a way that enables multiple routes through certain areas. Ladders, for example, will lead to elevated areas where elven archery may be more effective, while back alleys may hide boarded up alternate routes that dwarves can easily smash through. In terms of combat, it's a much more up-close and personal affair in Vermintide, especially considering the liberal use of swords, hammers, daggers, and maces across each class, and these are balanced out by ranged options too, such as crossbows, pistols, bows, and flame staffs. With this equal distribution of options available between heroes, I was a little worried that this could mean playing different heroes would begin to feel a little samey. Fortunately, that isn't the case. It's vital for the team to use their individual strengths and skills together in order to survive. A Bright Wizard, for example, can deliver powerful area of effect blasts, clearing out swarms of Skaven, which in turn allows Imperial soldiers and dwarves to get up close and personal against the remnants. Meanwhile, elves, while also handy at cutting through swarms, can pick off enemies at a distance with their quick-fire bows. And then there's witch hunters, who seem to occupy this happy middle ground between both ranged and melee. Combat feels satisfying. Swinging a warhammer, slashing at a swarm, or even pinging off a well-aimed arrow is a great visceral experience, with Skaven body parts being lopped off left, right, and center, and it shows that the creators behind this cared enough about the meat and potatoes of the core gameplay to make sure it remains entertaining and doesn't become a repetitive chore over the 13 stages, which is certainly a danger in this type of game. On top of that, combat can be augmented by loot, which is attainable via dice roll at the end of a successful mission run. The more dice that land with a symbol facing up, the greater your chance of obtaining something nice and shiny. This likelihood also increases with the difficulty you choose to play on. Different weapons will augment the way you approach combat with your chosen hero, switching up elements such as attack speed, damage, and effectiveness against groups versus individuals, for example. Another type of loot you can gain are trinkets. Trinkets act much like perks, and as you level up, more trinket slots become available. These will enable effects such as reduced revival time for fallen enemies, or a little bit of health returned to you when you heal someone else with your own items. I think it's fortunate that the combat and its surrounding elements are so enjoyable and compelling, because the biggest thing that drags Vermintide down is the fact that the game in its current form suffers from bugs, glitches, occasionally dodgy AI and performance hiccups that can render a thrilling run into a tremendously frustrating experience. For example, one run I recently tried saw a team member become stuck behind a bit of scenery, rendering him completely unable to move or finish the round. This stopped the rest of the team from being able to finish the round, which made the host quit, which forced a level restart, which put me all the way back at the beginning of the stage with bots for allies instead of actual people. To say I was a little pissed off would be a massive understatement, and the previously mentioned performance issues just made it worse. If you've been keeping track of the footage during this video, you'll notice in the top left an FPS counter. Now normally my PC can maintain close to 60 FPS without much issue at all, but Vermintide just fluctuated wildly, bouncing between 25 and 40 FPS. Even with the settings dialed down to medium, I was still running into issues. I can only assume that as a result, Vermintide in its current state still needs a fair bit of work on the optimization front. It's frustrating, you know, because buried beneath these issues is a game that is actually quite fun and enjoyable to play. It's unfortunately why I can't give Vermintide in its current state a full recommendation, because quite frankly, it still needs work, it still needs polish. However, if you're willing to put up with an experience that is still a fair bit rough around the edges, the link to the Vermintide Steam page is of course in the description below, where normally it retails for $29.99 in the US, $22.99 in the UK, and $27.99 if you're in the EU. But personally, I'd say wait for a few patches to clear up those issues first. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Leave a like if you've enjoyed the video, and be sure to subscribe if you want to keep up with future releases. This has been Mr. Icarus. Icarus out.